too hard on themselves. We have a long history, so it's an unfair comparison. As I said, it was founded in 1861 by Sir Edmund Barry as a result of a cultural plan that at the time included the State Library of Victoria, the Museum of Natural History, and the National Gallery of Victoria, and it remained like this for around a century. Early Melbourne, and this is very important in the context of the NGV, was an extremely prosperous community since the discovery of rich gold fields in the 1850s. These were considered the largest supply of gold in the world at the time, and they resulted in a vast wealth to some individuals who relished in the construction of grand and tailor-made mansions, and public companies and city founders who oversaw the construction of impressive Victorian era infrastructure. And one of the key things about Melbourne within Australia is that much of this infrastructure still remains. Many of the people attracted to the goldfields were from artistic backgrounds and wanted a cultural facility in their new homeland. So gradually an art collection was developed that commenced with, as many major museum collections do, with quite humble plaster renditions from the great masterworks of Europe, developing until today into a complex collection of works across media that encompass an extensive array of different artistic styles from a variety of cultures and historical periods. And we will get to images like that. In 1968, the NGV moved from the old State Library of Victoria and opened its new premises on St Kilda Road, where we are today. Considered quite revolutionary at the time, the new gallery included custom design facilities for educational and study purposes, and it also featured, interestingly at the time, a Chinese garden and several contemporary courtyard spaces. Dedicated galleries were designed for the painting collection and all light-sensitive areas, and plus the decorative arts and activities. Yet by the end of the 20th century, these facilities were no longer adequate, and within the space of 30 years, the collection had continued to grow at such an extreme rate that it was determined to separate the Australian works, which included the Indigenous art collection, from the non-Australian collections. The original building on St Kilda Road retained, which is this building here, retained all of the international collections, while an off-site storage facility was constructed, and a dramatic new facility exclusively for Australian art was built 400 metres away at a newly created area known as Federation Square. So you can see in this image in the foreground is the 1968 building, which is now known as NGV International, and just across the river, the building that's now known as the Encounter Centre, NGV Australia, which is in Federation Square. This area is in the heart of Melbourne and built over existing railway infrastructure, which you hopefully see in this image. The architectural firm was Lab and Made Smart, the principal company being led by an Australian and an American architect. The design of the entire site, of which the gallery is a major tenant, includes facades made from steel and a natural pinkish stone sourced from a remote location in the Australian outback. The interiors have a similar drama to the exterior of the building, which includes a strong reference to the work of architect Daniel Leedsmith, who worked closely with one of the lab architects during his Holocaust Memorial and Jewish Museum project in Berlin. And this does have a very particular impact the curators working in this work. It's a very particular structure. Some love it, some hate it, but I must say I'm very pro NGV Australia. NGV Australia includes large voids and chaotic ceilings, which are meant to reference Melbourne's overhead tram lines, as well as transparent ramps and resting places. In all, there are 20 large-scale galleries in this building. In 2003, the NGV reopened its international building. And this is just to give you an indication of some of the projects that we've done. I was very fortunate to work with Barry McGee, who's a San Francisco-based street artist on the facade of the building, which is known as the Water Wall, because much of loved by Melburnians, because anyone who has visited the city or grown up in Melbourne spends time as a child putting their hands against the cascading water that usually falls down the front of this next window. The NGV structure, 1968 structure was completely refurbished by Italian architect Mario Bellini in 2003 at a cost of 148 million Australian dollars, and resulted in a complete alteration to the orientation of the existing space, plus the inclusion of over 15 new gallery spaces. Working with the Australian International Art at the NGV means that I work across both of these campuses, which is a real privilege. Collecting Australian and international art from the collection and doing displays from both buildings. And I thought what I would do just before I go on is just give you an indication of some of the exhibitions that I've worked on in these two spaces, because hopefully, and I apologise, installation shots are incredibly boring, but I don't think art ever looks interesting when it's devoid of visitors, but that is the nature of the thing that happens post-exhibition. But I hope these will give you an indication of just some rooms within NGV International, the depth of the collections, and just a few of the exhibitions that I've worked on that hopefully give you a very brief indication of the depth of what is considered contemporary art in this role. So this is a survey of celebrated Australian artist Rosalie Gascoigne that I curated in 2008 for NGV Australia. And Gascoigne is renowned in the art world within Australia and internationally as quite incredibly holding her first solo exhibition at the age of 54. And she wasn't art school trained, she actually had trained in Ikebana. So there's hope for all of us yet if you're harbouring an artistic, hankering for an artistic career. And her work is primarily true to the nature of that training with Ikebana about assembling found materials in very beautiful colourful works. Some late works that she constructed from found road signs that she cut up. Part of my role is also sort of hosting incoming exhibitions, and this is an exhibition that was curated by the Museum of Contemporary Art in Sydney that travelled to NGV International. This will give you an indication of the vast scale of one of our temporary. This is just one of the temporary exhibition spaces, and the way in which we work with the artists to really push exhibition design. So this design was one of Miller's own exhibition concept, and one is a fascinating Chilean-born Australian artist who deals very much with sort of sexual and cultural politics in often quite confronting ways. An exhibition that we worked on in 2006, which was the major exhibition of the cultural program on the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne. It was something that National Gallery of Victoria did with the Australian Centre for the Moving Image, and we were very fortunate to include Ivan Lee, who some of you may know, in that show. And she was the, we had a number of artists from different Commonwealth countries, and she represented Malaysia in that context. It was a great joy to